Good stuff.
All right, guys, we should be live now. I'm here with Bull.
Yes. Good afternoon from here, actually.
To Dubai.
To
So today we're going to go through an update for May. This is following on from last month's update, where we've successfully implemented 3 exchanges now into the BTX. So we're going to go through that, talk about everything that is part of integrating those exchanges and how we're able to do it so quickly now. The current 0.5.1 beta challenges, what people can expect.
Excellent.
Bull will give a lot of insight into beta now, not alpha.
Yeah.
Dev team update. Who's working on
Yeah,
what?
that's my fault. Yeah, it started to get a bit mad with the versions, but it's beta, and then soon it will just go towards release. And I think I might post something, a bit more information about Semverse in the Discord and let people know how these version progressions typically go. Some might already know it, but good to refresh.
And we'll also mention what's happening with the old BTE and how that's going to be, the thoughts that we have about working that into the BTX, and some updates on the marketing side of things and some plans there. So, Bull, got the BTX in front of us. Did you want to start off with a bit of a tech update?
Yeah. So first of all, the visual that you see here is it's sort of a development playground. This is in no way an interface that is intuitive for the layman. So you need to, if a layman goes in here, not in an insulting manner, but sees random numbers __0 and arb -l -s and then some identification issues. That will be very hard for them to navigate. And we have trade 0, trade 1. This is very much a developer's interface, and that's why it's very much beta. And that's also why we're getting the UI UX designer on board, who is a legend, who both Ted and I have worked with before. The main point of this guy is to make sure that we have this interface now where we've been able to sort of build a template for all of the complexities that we face. So you have a position, but the position is composed of multiple trades, because you have a trade to open the position, which can have various orders, which can happen in various batches. And then, as you can see here, you have a trade that closes the position, which is the opposite trade. So the initial trade was long Binance Sol, short Bybit Sol. It was executed within 51 seconds, and it was open for 38 hours. And you see some inconsistencies here. So I've left this one here because this one is a partial fill execution, and the interface doesn't truly reflect it yet. So I'm using the interface to debug how the engine is representing the trades, the executions, the batches, and the orders of what sounds like a simple thing, a basis trade, but it's actually a very complex thing under the hood, especially because it's prepared for size. So a lot of all of this will disappear. You will get a light and a pro interface. So the light interface will just show, this is your position on these pairs. This is how long it's been open. This is what the APR is so far. This is what the cost is so far. This position is using X percentage of your collateral, if that, right? And then the pro view of it will be something like this, but then with all of the identification stuff hidden away, but retrievable, and a more order by order, execution by execution, expandable, contractible interface, which looks a lot better than this. So I'm very proud of what we're building, but I'm also a little bit ashamed of the UI UX. I'm not a designer, even though I like design a lot, but it's quite difficult to develop and design at the same time, because you're often stuck in something which you shouldn't be stuck in. So back to the UI UX designer. We working with him on onboarding right now, and as he understands the scope a lot better, he'll be able to come back with better figures for costs and so forth. So it's like he's on board, but we're still negotiating those parts, obviously, because the amount of work is dependent on the scope and how we fix that. So Ted and Dennis are primarily taking care of that to make sure that every little thing is covered. Like if we have a login, this needs to be there, these need to be there. You need to be able to accept terms. You need to be able to log in. It needs to be a good log of your authentication records. We need to have a record of how many times the API key was used for security, et cetera, et cetera. Those are just some small edge things, like how do we link to documentation? How do we open the settings panel? Like all of these things need to be specced out in a big tree of features and functionality. And then together with him, we will be determining a design direction, which is a bit of like, these are the boundaries of our design spec. So for those of you who are familiar, it will be more like we construct like a design language. So like a standard approach to how we design components. Like, are we doing more rounded? Are we not doing more rounded? What are the colors that we have, and so forth. And when that has happened and all of that thing has been defined, then the biggest benefit of the UI/UX designer, apart from making it look good, quote unquote, is to make sure that the user flow is proper, and then to make sure that the development team doesn't have to design, but they have ready sliced and prepared components within Figma that they can almost literally copy and paste into the application. So if the designer finishes his job, then the development of the front end will be a lot faster. And as I shared in the social club, the NFT gated section of the Discord just now, the current thing that we're working on with the front-end developers that are there is that they can already start working on some of the visualization items that we have planned. So for example, Binance has just announced a funding ARB trading bot, which is interesting. We love Binance. It was the first exchange that we onboarded. We drive a lot of volume to Binance. However, Binance caps its funding rates for commercial reasons or whatever, and that puts a hard ceiling on the opportunities that you can get from Binance, and that's also one of the biggest pushes behind this multi-exchange funding ARBs, which we knew from the beginning would be lucrative. So now that we can do that within the application, we can also see cross-exchange, that there's so many, like most of the best opportunities are actually cross-exchange funding ARBs. And so the APRs here are quite cool. Back to, if we could just go back to positions for a second, Ted.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are the parts that we are working on now? It's good to bring all of this. Like we have spent an enormous amount of time and effort to get the infrastructure and the data systems and the backend and all of the components. There's about 30 repositories behind this project in line so that this works. Because what you're doing is you're executing positions with people's API keys, and you really want to make sure that that is based on correct information and done in the right way, and that there's a full audit trail so that they can debug stuff that is happening. So on that topic right now, we are finalizing a standardized logging interface because we have logging on the back end, obviously, but we want to be able to have an audit trail visible in the interface. And the designer also needs to see this because they need to design a way of making this order interface, this log interface debuggable. So if somebody has an issue because they're trying to open a position where one of the quote assets is USDC, for example, and they don't have collateral in KuCoin in USDC. KuCoin is one of the exchanges which has a specific non-cross-margined perpetuals account. So if you don't have USDC, you cannot open USDC denominated perpetual positions. And this is unique to KuCoin in the current integration. And if you're trying to open a position, it will just say it's errored and canceled. But actually, if you are able to get the logs that we are seeing and visualize them in a standardized and beautiful way, you'll see that log item 23, after it's tried to open positions, will be able to reflect the error message that we get back from the exchange that we've standardized that says, actually, your collateral for the intended pair is not available. And then based on that, you'll be able to know, oh, wait a second, I need to add USDC to my collateral in KuCoin. And then a small UI UX update will be that in the opportunities tab, we'll have to say that there's zero collateral for the pair chosen because the pair chosen is a USDC denominated pair on the short side for KuCoin. So that gives you kind of an idea of how immensely complex it is, because that's just a small edge condition for one exchange. And we were able to integrate Bybit last week in 3 days, given all of these complexities and edge cases. So for me personally, I was enormously elated because that for me was the proof that our design path works and that we spent the effort on the right things, because we were able to integrate that complexity in a very fast way. As also shared in the social club, there's a backend engineer joining next week to start helping to accelerate the exchange onboarding. And Ted's going to help us with communication and reach out to the exchanges to see if we can start getting some rebate links and fee discounts. And it will be kind of fun to involve the exchange community with which exchange are we going to integrate next. I think that will be a good way to drive engagement. All right. Other things that are coming is that currently you need to refresh the page or move between tabs in order to see position update. We have an entire PubSub infrastructure to relay updates to the front end. but we're working on a standardized logging so that the logs that are coming, the interface should know that those updates warrant a fetching of new data, and that the data that's coming in via the stream has the same data format as that is stored in the database. This is more of a development kind of thing, but we really try to rush the last bits to just get it out, because at some point you just need to get it out there. Thank you, Unbuilt Bull. So he was right. It's good to get it out there because we learned a lot more from once it was released. But that comes with the caveat that we now need to quickly patch this live update stuff, because it's just not a useful interface if it doesn't update live. And that in turn will be fun to show in like a stream or like a video on Twitter, like, oh, look, we're opening a delta neutral position in 40 seconds on 2 exchanges. Booyah. And then start doing it with size, and then again, that'll be quite fun. And then there's a whole list which is pinned in the social club of other stuff that we are working on to improve for 0.5.1 beta. And I'll explain a little bit more about the versionings within the Discord. So yeah, that's a lot of the work. So it's onboarding UI UX designer, making sure that the new team members on the dev team get up to speed, making sure that we fix bugs and work on feedback. And I'm trying to keep everybody apprised as possible. Obviously, not everybody's. I mean, there's people that are always going to be unhappy, but we're trying to do this as best and as fast as we can, and try and have fun whilst doing it. So, TLDR, everything's going to change in terms of looks. It's going to be a lot better. It's going to be more real time, and we're really appreciating the feedback that we are receiving from the issues and the tickets. And currently, we are on issue ticket number 1,116. So that's a lot of feedback worked into this project so far.
Yeah. I'll just tag on a little bit, Bull. I think you covered most of it, but from my point of view with this, it needs to come down to making it as easy as possible for someone who's never touched a basis trade in their life to start using this thing. So Bull's, while this may be useful for some more advanced users, we're working on streamlining this and having kind of like a light and a more complex version, so for a lighter user and a more advanced user, because I think all of this information is useful and you do need to see it, but some people just get lost in the details. And even when I first looked at this, I got a little bit lost in the detail. But so working with the designer quite closely with Dennis and ensuring that, you know, we look at these opportunities and straight away you can see exactly which is the best to get in at that moment in time, or if you're in a position, how is that performing and should you still be in that position? So tooltips and hovering and giving as much information as possible to a newer user is something that we're very much focusing on, because I think that's a market that is probably a little untouched with basis trading and delta neutral trading. Appealing to the smaller guy, I think, or on crypto Twitter at least, and getting them involved is
Can you
going to be very, very powerful.
Go to filter opportunities and just type in Bybit. So, and then try and find the first pair that is paired with Binance. So I think it's UMA USDT. Can you go? I think it's up 47.45%.
Okay,
no, no, that one. No. Binance Bybit. Yeah, I think it said it. Just wait a second.
Said it there.
Yeah, that one. Yeah. Click on that one. Go. Let me see. Yeah, so here it gets the spread. It's positive spread right now. So this is one of the pairs where you can open the thing. It gets us the balances and everything. So all of this is nice, but we want to make it even easier. So in essence, it just comes down to, like, pros can still do this and split out how many batches they want, and we can give advice on what the market volume is and volatility and which batch size would have the least amount of time, effectively creating sort of a limit chasing TWAP for their basis position. But for the let's say, quote unquote, power users, we just want to have like a slider saying how much of your collateral do you want to allocate to this, and then have a warning like, yo, this is too much. It's going to be kind of dangerous. Since this is a cross-exchange funding ARB, you need collateral on both exchanges. And then when it's in the green zone, like, yeah, it's okay, but just make sure price does not go up or down by X% in order for this to be an issue. And based on volatility, that shouldn't be the case, but in crypto, it's always an unknown. and then have alerts and stuff coming in. And it's just a simple click, click, slide, and then the thing is opened.
Yeah. But just to reiterate, I think the most important thing is to make it as visual and interactive as possible, because most of these, even crypto exchanges, I find for new users, they're intuitive to a point, but they're not targeted at people for ease of use. It's more
Oh man,
there's
I
something
remember in
about it that just
2015.
doesn't.
Yeah, 2014, 15. I had to I still remember trying to figure out what a limit order was. So I have to sometimes bring myself back to that level of understanding. And arguably, people that don't have that level of understanding shouldn't be dabbling in delta neutral trades, because in and of itself, it's a more
Yeah.
advanced concept. But
I mean, but it doesn't have to be though, right?
yeah,
It can be quite
yeah,
simple.
yeah. Well,
I think.
the part from one of the main reasons for me to agree with Adam to work on this project is I always had large spot positions, and I hated seeing them underwater, and I was never quick enough to start hedging them. So, and then realizing that once you hedge them, you can still collect funding. Like for me, one of the big goals in the UI UX is to be able to have one-legged positions and hedge the other part, and then see the P&L curve grow over time with these flat lines where it's hedged, and then curve up, flat line, curve up. Maybe a little bit of drawdown, but flat line, curve up. And if it's too much drawdown, flat line. And it's the same thing that you do with your trades, Ted, is that you have a position because you believe that overall the market's going to head in a certain direction. For example, you were spot long Solana, if I'm not mistaken, waiting for the CPI print, but you were hedged just to make sure. And as soon as that a hotter or a colder print come out, you can remove that hedge. And that's worked out very well right now. Am I mistaken?
And in the meantime, you're getting paid as well on that short.
Yeah, more often than not. Like if we're in a bear market, that hedge does not pay. But in a bull market, absolutely, and sometimes quite obscenely so.
Yeah, definitely. I think when people can understand where their profit is actually coming from, that's where the aha is like, oh, this isn't such an advanced concept after all.
So the
But I guess,
visualizations, the P&L curves, and the position history in a chart and a timeline, that would just add so much breadth and depth to basis trading. Like you can see, well, I had this initial line where I started. This is how much funding I put in. My overall position notional value dipped here because of the fees. Fine. And then you see your position size grow, and then you see the funding payments grow over time, and you're like, oh, wait a second, this is good. If you see that curving off, you might say, well, I'll go naked short, see what happens. And then, people have to take their own risk for stuff. But that's really where I want to go with this, is that it's just a more intelligent way to have crypto exposure.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what we've got the new, I guess, in the meantime, since last town hall, we've onboarded a new design team member to reiterate, or to iterate over the current design and pick apart what's good, what's bad, and what's in between. So that's what we're focused on delivering, I guess. When do you think those new designs will go live? Or like it'll be?
Well, right now we're in the stage where we are onboarding him and making sure that he understands all the elements, facets, and caveats within the entire ecosystem. Making him understand, well, what is the scope for the first large package of work, which is like would be about a month or 2 months of work, where the design language will start to be released early, and we already start getting components early on, so that we can start migrating the entire interface to the latest design, which will culminate in then obviously a new release in the end. But then along the way, we will see major UI UX improvements and stuff coming out whilst it's in beta. But then the 1.0 release, which will be the first proper full release when it comes out of beta, will have then the whole UI UX coming out. So to answer your question in just simple terms, is that sorry, you might be hearing my baby on the background, but to answer the question in the simple terms is, I think that realistically, I mean, I always want this stuff to happen faster than it does, but realistically, we're going to spend another week, maybe 2, on scope and finalizing and saying, okay, well, this is it and this is where it is, and then obviously we'll communicate that with the community in the Discord as well. And then in the meantime, he's working on refining a design language direction. So coming up with references from popular design projects and like similar interfaces that have solved a particular interface problem that we have in an intelligent way, having it be mobile ready. Like you want to be able to open this with your Phantom Wallet browser and just be like, okay, well, I'm going to close this basis position, or that looks like a good opportunity. I'll just hedge my exposure here. So to define that edge case, 1 to maximum 3 weeks, whilst good visuals are already coming out that we can start sharing. There'll be some negotiation on pricing and values along the way. But yeah, all of us are aligned to get this running as quickly as possible, because the front-end developers within the development team really need this stuff. I also really need this stuff, because like what the interface that you see right now in front of you is me with the development team designing whilst we're coding, and it's like you can easily see this is like designed by a developer, because it's just so much dev nonsense in there. For example, spread could not meet the required L3S. Like, who knows what that means? Only the devs know what that means, or people that ask questions. So we are aware of this, but it's what we didn't want to do is build an entire interface for a long time inside a closed container and then only release it at the end. Like this way, people get to interact and see the intricacies that are involved in opening a position, and test out the engine as well below it, which is even bigger than the front end. Does that answer your question, Ted? Sorry, feel free to cut me off. I always talk way too much.
Yeah. So you said 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, until we can get to some kind of.
So within the coming 3 weeks, we should have a good solid UI UX timeline and initial designs coming out already, and the negotiations finalized on the costs for him. It's not the cheapest, but I think we're paying for quality.
Yeah, and the emphasis has been put on sharing as much as he can before he's completed all of it. So it's a very open type of work package, I guess. Mm-hmm. Okay, so where does that lead us to now? Just looking at the notes. The BTE. Should we talk about the BTE a little bit, Paul, and what you're thinking there?
Yeah. It's important. Yeah. BTE. All right. So initially, the initial parts of the basis project were we sold 5,000 NFTs, and there were access passes to the BTE, which was a funding opportunity engine, which ran for several years, which was deprecated a little bit earlier this year, because the BTX infrastructure was taking care of all of the data items that the BTE was doing, but in a much better way and allowing trading on top of it. So this is a DAO. So as it stands, we can't just change the product offering, but a lot of people can get what they need from the BTX at the moment, whilst we're getting ready for a release 2.0 on the BTE. So the way that we're doing it right now is that we have a segment in the BTX prepared that covers all of the functionality of the BTE, as well as with the visualizations and the charts and everything, where people can see opportunities. And then that will only be available for NFT holders as it stands. And then the people that have NFTs and have access to that can also then click and open a position like they would in the BTX right now. Do I think that that is the best way forward? No. So my suggestion also to Dennis, and Dennis is going to start putting some weight behind this, is to open a discussion in the DAO and see if we can put a proposal forward to change the product offering slightly with regards to the BTE. And what I would like to see is that part in a limited way is actually publicly visible. So people can just go to the website, navigate opportunities, and get excited by the fact that, curves are trending north, and you can get a certain percentage. You can put in an amount of money that you may or may not have on exchanges, simulate what your returns would have been over the last 3 months if you would have used the product in the most accurate way possible. And then work the tokenomics around that so that that it benefits that part of it, and that people can then execute trades and maybe use basis tokens to execute those trades for the fees, as we have designed right now, and then have the NFTs to be having special characteristics. So what I would suggest is that people that hold a certain amount of NFTs, the more they hold, the more say they have in the project, obviously. But I think that the more they hold, the lower their fee structure should be for their trades altogether, because it would seem logical that the larger accounts would want to use this platform a lot better to buy out their fee exposure. The benefit, like that's normal in an exchange as well. So if you have a ton of money on an exchange, you also start going into VIP tiers and then paying less fees in your trades, and it's all engineered to drive more volume to the exchange. And so we can help NFT holders in that regard. I personally am a bit in doubt whether we need to, cap certain opportunities only to NFT holders, because I think that there is a better solution. So instead of capping opportunities, what I would say is that NFT holders can actually put on maybe more complex basis trades, can do stuff like open and close a single leg, which would be only available to NFT holders. And I mean, I'm just spitballing, but this should typically be the discussion in the DAO. And I've asked Dennis to start driving this soon. And currently, we're working very hard on making sure we onboard the UI UX individual as best as possible. And I think that has absolute priority over DAO discussions, proposals, and so forth. So what we're doing on the BTE side is just developing as if it's going to be a gated product for the NFT holders, which is what the current DAO position is on that. And then, but making sure that it's built flexibly enough so that we can change the access dynamics around should there be a new proposal. So we're trying to think ahead a little bit here on a pending discussion. And initial reactions that I have seen in the community have more or less agreed with this stance on where the BTE should go. And also from a product and marketing perspective, having two different products that have a high overlap just seems like a large inefficiency to have, even though they're a lot better now. They have the same infrastructure on the back end. Does that cover enough information?
Yeah, I'm just trying to get some visuals. So here's what Frankium used to have.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they're doing at the moment, but maybe they're dead. Not sure. But they have a great calculator for yield farming, which shows you if you were to hold for say 180 days. Assets to borrow. So it's slightly different to what a basis trade would be.
Yeah, but you could see it simulated. Yeah.
But you can see your equity curve. So this is just showing you an equity curve over time. And essentially that's what we're saying we would build into the BTX with visualizations and some tooling for each position. So for example, you're entering a basis trade for, where's the tab? If you're entering a basis trade for this top one here, you'd be presented with, a modal or something like that that has an inbuilt calculator,
the
visualizations like this.
Yeah, the reason why it was flagging an error there is because you selected two exchanges that we have the data collectors for, but not the exchange integrations for.
Okay. But yeah, that's just putting some color on what Bull was saying around the BTE and how that could be integrated into the BTX, I think.
And do you have a quick access to a funding heat map? I think that where's the typical funding? Is it Coinalyze or?
No, I think I've got it here.
Yeah, so this exactly. So we have all of this data and we have it streaming live into the system. So there's no reason why we shouldn't be able to put this front and center. And you can click on a specific square and then be taken immediately to that token. And people with an NFT could, for example, open that across different exchanges or wherever they want to go. And this also shows you a bit of the heated state of the market and whatnot. So at the moment, it's actually quite cold. I think BTC even flipped negative in terms of funding, like people more short than long, but they're getting blown out now. This kind of stuff is really useful also in the communication to share, like, hey, this week the market's looking like that. These are the kind of opportunities I would keep an eye on. Given that the funding is quite low, perhaps it's better to start building a long or short position without providing financial advice. But then with the BTX, as soon as things start getting a bit hot, you can start hedging it, for example. Like, there's plenty of material that once it's public can really be used on this stuff. And whilst this is interesting, like, we have found that the data behind this is not always accurate. and it's not always the right opportunities that are being shown. So there's a big bias towards certain exchanges because they're being paid more, I guess. But still, it's still good, and it gives an idea. But we want to have an interface that's more easily filterable and directly executable. But the live updates here are stuff that we could easily do. Yeah.
Yeah, so things like the 3-day rate, the stability of the rates, the revenue that you would earn over the 3 days, APIs, things like that you can visualize is basically the BTE integrated with the BTX. So that's why Bull's saying that they don't necessarily need to be separate products that can be integrated as one.
All right. I hope that gives a good highlight of where we are with the BTE, but also what our position is with BTE and the kind of things that we hope to achieve also with the DAO. But then again, it's open to suggestions from the community because that's how it works. I think that I think we've covered this part. What do you think, Ted?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And I guess Dennis will be on that with the DAO stuff.
Yeah.
After some more discussion.
His domain. So I have to focus on making sure that we get the stuff out. And then all three of us have to make sure that the UI UX individual is brought up to speed as quickly as possible. All right.
Yeah.
Other topics. So we've covered the DAO stuff for Dennis. A bit on marketing. I think that's good to talk about that. So Ted and I have had quite a long call earlier today to work on some feedback that we've received on the marketing side of things. So strategically, I think that we've been trying to make sure that Ted works as much as possible with us on the product management side of things until there's a public release, because we don't want to spend ammunition on marketing when it's not there. But I think that reviewing how that works now, I think that we've come to an agreement that there might be a better approach to all of this, and that is really to start drumming up awareness of the project and more dialogue with exchanges and more dialogue about the product in relation to the markets, because the markets are moving every single day. So it's very interesting to see how the BTX and basis will be positioned in that. And there's a lot of stuff that we could interact with on that regard. So Ted, I'm not going to talk a lot about this because it's more in your domain, but I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, of course. I understand that some of the frustrations in the Discord, which on the other side of the fence, I'd probably be saying the same thing. Being a perfectionist and trying to get all of the ducks in order, so to speak, before things are released is probably a vice at the moment. So more of an approach of volume and getting things out, getting things moving into that public launch is probably the approach to take now on some reflection. So expect that starting today and this week. We've got a blog post coming out that I wrote earlier today, just screening that with Dennis at the moment and getting it uploaded. So there's going to be longer form stuff, shorter form stuff, everything in between, and people pointing out
more commentary style things as well, I guess.
Yeah, and helpful stuff like should we be basis trading now? Should we not? What do I think, or what does the project think? What's the market doing?
Yeah,
things that are helpful and get people interested in what we're doing, not so much shilly and hashtag stuff that other projects do, which can be great at some points when we've got new releases. But I think where we can add value is going to draw more people in.
That sort of viral stuff would be like the viral stuff would be more when it's public. It would be more like, I have a spot position, but I've been using the BTX to hedge my position here and there. This is my P&L curve. This is my P&L curve versus if I was just spot long. Do you want to trade or you want to trade smart? Head over to the BTX. This is my ref link, and you get a discount on fees. Like that sort of stuff would work so much better than, this opportunity is printing 100%, but there's nothing to borrow. So keep an eye on it. That's we understand it. We get the feedback, and it was hard to write a balance, but it's. I said this today in the social club. It's like they see the tip of the iceberg. They see what we discuss in the Discord, but they don't see the immense amount of preparation and understanding and planning that goes on in the back end with the teams to make sure that everything gets going on. So I don't have time to do the entire product management and scope planning and criteria. So I'm really relying on Ted to really hash that out with the developers and with the UI UX designer, with Dennis, to make sure that everybody's on the same page. And then I come in to answer some technical intricacies, as you can see from the screenshots that are shared with the lead developer from the development team. So yeah, I mean, long story short, I understand the feedback. Sometimes it's, I mean, sometimes it's shared with a bit of vitriol, but I guess that's just part of crypto. But we hear you, and we want to make sure that we improve where we need to improve. And with some honest reflection, we can see that, you have a strategy, it doesn't work, you need to change it.
Yeah. I mean, there's a structure that's been shared, and that'll be very baseline scenario, and that's something most days, if not every day, and filling in the gaps in between, whether it be video content where necessary, where we've got a new update coming out, sharing that in some kind of format on the YouTube channel, and then Twitter just getting out volume, getting people aware that this thing's live and is going to be live publicly in the not so distant future. And then when it is live publicly, you can expect partnerships to come across your Twitter feed. Looking at Bybit, Will Exchange as well has reached out to me personally, but we can get something going there as well with Basis. So
I would love to integrate Woo. I really like Ben York and the team. They're just always on it.
Yeah, 100%. So there's plenty of scope to do a lot of great things. It's, I guess, me, for example, trying to be a bit more of a perfectionist and get the graphic designer to design all of this out, and, waiting a couple of weeks and then, asking Bull, should I send an update now? Are you ready for us to send some content out? And that's probably not the way to go about it. So getting out in front of the curve and just, it's easier to ask for forgiveness than it is permission. So we'll just get things rolling.
I think there's also we're working it's such an exciting market. There's every day there's stuff happening. I mean, you've got the degeneracy and the stupidity of crypto Twitter with all the memes and all the nonsense. And do I think this is the top? Do I think it's the bottom? But actually, the data tells you quite a beautiful picture. And we should be data focused, objectively analytical, and how can you apply our tool in these market conditions? And that will not only give people a nice handrail to hold on to, but it will also give people the tools to then make the choices that they need to make, apart from just, aping in and out of positions on their one exchange or limit ordering stuff here and there, not getting filled and panicking and whatever not. And it's not necessary. And I think that over time, what I would like the community to migrate towards is, on the one hand, how can we make this better? And on the other hand, this market's cool. How can we all make some money together, essentially, whilst managing risks and doing the right things?
Yep, 100%.
Okay,
great.
Well, I think that's a good closure on the town hall. What do you think, Ted?
Yeah, I think so. Just looking at the notes, we've covered all of the topics that we've got.
Yeah, I would. I mean, as always, we try to answer every ticket within at least a couple of hours of when it was raised or when we see it. All of the team is constantly checking those. So if you have any issues, difficulties, or concerns, or thoughts, or whatever, just please open a ticket and we can get that sorted. And constructive feedback in public channels is always welcome. And I hope you see that it's being acted upon and reflected upon, and we do take it very seriously. And it's I'm quite excited about what's coming next. So I really want to keep building it.
Good stuff. All right, guys, we'll leave it there for now and catch you next month for the next one. But in the meantime, we'll be in the Discord and on socials covering what's happening.
Yep.
So, until next
time. All right.
Thanks, Paul.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Ciao, ciao.